Most people enter their 60s with a quiet, unspoken assumption that the most significant chapters of their lives are behind them, that what lies ahead is maintenance, the careful management of declining health, limited energy, and the gradual relinquishment of the roles and relevance that gave the earlier years their shape and meaning. Buddha looked at this assumption and rejected it completely, not with naive optimism, with the specific, hard-won, completely evidence-based conviction of someone who had watched enough human lives to know that some of the most extraordinary living a human being can do happens precisely in the years that most people have already mentally written off. In the next 5 minutes, I am going to share with you Buddha's secret weapon for not just surviving, but genuinely thriving in the years that matter most. The secret weapon is not a supplement.
It is not a mindfulness app. It is not a productivity system or an exercise program or any of the 1,000 things the wellness industry is selling to aging people desperate for the promise of more time and more vitality. It is a complete philosophical reorientation of what the later years are for. And once you understand it, once you genuinely absorb it rather than just intellectually acknowledge it, it changes everything about how you inhabit the time you have. Buddha taught that every stage of life has its particular gift to offer, not just to the person living it, but to the world that person inhabits. The gift of the elder is not a diminished version of what the younger person offers. It is a completely different and in many ways more valuable offering. The younger person offers energy, possibility, and the fresh enthusiasm of someone who has not yet been disappointed enough times to understand how extraordinary ordinary life actually is. The elder offers something incomparably more rare: depth, perspective, the settled, unshakable wisdom that comes from having survived enough to know what survives, and the specific quality of presence that only becomes available when the desperate striving of the first half of life has finally, genuinely quieted. The first element of Buddha's secret weapon is what he called purposeful simplification. The later years offer a gift that the busy earlier years almost never did: the possibility of genuine discernment about how time is spent. The children no longer need the same daily attention. The career no longer makes the same relentless demands. The social obligations that filled the calendar for decades are no longer non-negotiable. And in this opening, this gradually clearing space, there is an invitation that most people miss entirely because they are too busy trying to fill it with more of what the earlier years contained. The invitation to choose, perhaps for the first time with genuine freedom, how your time and energy are spent. Buddha's prescription is radical simplification combined with radical intentionality. Remove everything that does not genuinely serve your deepest values. Your actual values, not the ones you inherited, not the ones you performed, but the ones that have survived everything your life has thrown at them and remain, in the quiet, honest moments, undeniably and completely yours. And into the space that simplification creates, fill it only with what is genuinely alive for you. The creative expression that was always postponed. The relationships that deserve more depth than they received. The contribution that only your specific combination of experience, perspective, and hard-won wisdom makes possible. The second element is what Buddha called the cultivation of what remains. The later years strip away many things. They are often years of loss, of health, of independence, of people, of roles, of the future that was imagined. But Buddha observed something that most people miss in the midst of these losses. Every loss simultaneously reveals something that the lost thing was covering. The loss of professional identity reveals the person beneath the role. The loss of physical capacity reveals the presence and the wisdom that do not depend on physical capacity. The loss of people who were loved reveals the love itself, which does not end when its object does. Every loss is simultaneously a revelation, and what is revealed, when met with honesty and with willingness to see it clearly, is almost always something more essential and more genuinely valuable than what was lost. The third element is what Buddha called radical presence, as both practice and gift. In the later years, when time is more visibly finite, when the impermanence that was always true becomes personally felt, the capacity for genuine presence reaches its highest possible development. The older person who has done their inner work, who has made peace with impermanence, who has released enough of the past and enough anxiety about the future to be genuinely here, is the most present person in any room. And that quality of presence is not just their gift to themselves. It is their gift to everyone they encounter. The grandchild who receives the full, unhurried, genuinely interested attention of a grandparent is receiving something that no amount of money, no educational resource, and no technological innovation can replicate. The friend who is truly listened to, not managed, not advised, not efficiently dealt with, but genuinely heard, by an older person who has the time and the wisdom and the practiced capacity for real listening, is receiving one of the most healing things available in a human life. Your presence, your full, complete, warm, unhurried presence, is your secret weapon, and it becomes more powerful, not less, with every year that you deepen it. The fourth element is what Buddha called the liberation of authenticity. In the later years, freed from many of the social and professional pressures that demanded performance and conformity earlier, the possibility of genuine authenticity reaches its fullest expression. You no longer need to be who anyone else needs you to be. You no longer need to suppress the parts of yourself that were inconvenient or unconventional or simply too much for the environments of your earlier years. You are finally, fully, and completely free to be exactly who you actually are. This liberation, when claimed consciously and courageously, produces a quality of aliveness that most people have never experienced because they never allowed themselves the full expression of their genuine self. The creativity that was always there but always postponed. The opinions that were always present but always softened for palatability. The love that was always felt but always rationed for safety. All of it, all of the authentic you that was waiting for permission, is available now, without apology, without explanation, without the exhausting performance of being someone more acceptable. And the final element, the one that ties all others together into the secret weapon Buddha actually meant, is this: the decision to treat the years ahead not as an epilogue to the life that mattered, but as the chapter in which everything that was learned, earned, survived, and refined finally gets to be fully expressed. The chapter where the wisdom serves rather than accumulates, where the love flows freely rather than being carefully managed, where the authentic self lives out loud, rather than in the quiet internal space it was relegated to for so long. You are not in decline. You are in the most potentially significant, most deeply human, most genuinely alive chapter of your entire life. The question is not whether this time matters. It does. The question is only whether you will show up for it with the full presence, the full courage, and the full authentic expression of everything you have become. The answer, if you choose it, is yes. And that yes is available right now, in this breath, in this moment, in this one extraordinary day that is yours and no one else's. Save this and share it with every person you love who is in their 60s, 70s, and beyond, and who needs to be reminded that their most alive years do not have to be behind them. Subscribe to Tathagata Wisdom, because every single day we bring you the wisdom that turns every stage of life into exactly what it was always meant to be: an opportunity, a deepening, and a gift.